and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. My name is Antonina Antosha and you're watching UATV. Today we're broadcasting from FinTech Forum here in Kyiv, Ukraine, and I'm going to be speaking with Areiel Wolanow. He is the Managing Director of Finserv Experts. Hello and thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's good to be here.
Nice to meet you. So, I just said that you're a Managing Director of Finserv Experts. What exactly is your area of expertise?
So we are a very small consultancy. We design and help deliver business models that are based on emerging technologies.
Like what?
We led the design and delivery of a trade settlement prototype based on blockchain for Lloyd's of London. I led the letter of credit origination prototype for HSBC and Bank of America out of Singapore. I'm an advisor to the UK government on adoption of blockchain and work on financial inclusion projects in Kenya and Indonesia and elsewhere.
That is very impressive. Now, I know that you are a senior business leader with over 30 years of experience in business transformation. If you look at the business sphere here in Ukraine, what would you consider transforming?
Well, I think the biggest thing that Ukraine has to offer the world is the base of its talent. There's a lot of excellent delivery capability here, and so the business models that would seem to work are the ones that make it very easy for markets around the world to access that capability. So that could be as simple as a very traditional consulting or software delivery firm, but it's also, I think, about fintechs and indeed regtech, agtech, and other types of innovation that can access this in ways that don't really have to worry about the barriers that borders have implied in the past. So whether that's through blockchain or cloud architecture or any enabling technology, really, it's really about making the phenomenal talent that's coming out of the Ukraine available on the world market.
Blockchain technology, is it a must for modern economy in every country, or is it, let's say, an option?
I think its eventual adoption will be as inevitable and transformational as the internet itself. But like the internet, I think that will happen over a matter of decades. When I had the privilege of working during the dot-com boom in Silicon Valley for the entire decade of the 1990s. And we are, all of us, motivated by the idea, this thing called the internet, it's going to change everything. Looking back 30 years, we were right. But that didn't stop us from making a lot of stupid decisions, from investing millions of dollars in business models that were never going to go anywhere, and from having the vast majority of ventures and startups during that period fail.
So would you say that there is more cons than pros to a blockchain technology?
No, what I think is that it's going to take a matter of time before people figure out how to make the most of the technology, and that probably 80% of the business models and more than 80% of the companies doing it now will not succeed. The ones that do succeed, however, are going to change the world.
Well, the cryptocurrency market is being evaluated at the level of $200,000 billion right now, right? And Ukraine is officially getting ready to dive into that market. Would you give a piece of advice how to do it the most effective way?
Be happy to do that. So, first of all, cryptocurrency is only the first use case for blockchain. And in fact, none of the projects that I've cited to you that we've worked on have any cryptocurrency at all. Obviously, Ukraine enjoys a position of leadership in the crypto market. And I think that as more sovereign governments issue digital fiat currency, it's going to put competitive pressure on cryptocurrency to remain relevant and valuable. This competition is usually a good thing. It forces innovation. But the one thing that digital fiat currency cannot do, by definition, is cross borders. And that demand for facilitating cross-border efficiency is one of the key areas where crypto can continue to make a difference, even when
there's internet.
Yes, but the internet sending money across the internet is very difficult, is of questionable legality in many places, subject to capital flight restrictions, KYC, AML. So the ability of crypto to provide a efficient and regulatorily acceptable method is the one area that is uniquely in that realm. For all the competitive pressure that digital fiat currency will place, that's one area that will always belong to private digital currency, i.e. crypto. And so it's a unique advantage, and one that the people who are developing, whether it's consortium stablecoins like Libra, or pure crypto like Bitcoin, or enterprise stablecoins like what JP Morgan is doing, these are all examples of private digital currency. And the sweet spot, if you will, is facilitating payments across borders. Within a country, digital fiat will take over, and the private digital currencies don't have a chance. But the cross-border payments will always be reserved to that space. So it's where people who are interested in crypto should be investing their time and their use case and their drive to get regulatory approval should be in that cross-border payment case.
That is fascinating. When you take a look at the investment climate in Ukraine, how would you evaluate it?
More noise than action. But as I think that my long-term prognosis for the Ukraine is very good because of the high level of talent that it's putting out. So if you compare to Ukraine, just in terms of the size, the quality of the universities here, the quality and the quantity of excellent software engineers, developers, designers, architects, testers, puts it in a very advantageous position, certainly compared to the other countries in Eastern Europe, but obviously very competitive to Western Europe in terms of cost. But I think that there's no reason that the Ukraine couldn't be directly competitive with the likes of India and China.
So basically, the locomotive of Ukrainian economy, if I'm getting you right, the locomotive of Ukrainian economy in the long-term perspective is human resources.
Absolutely, no question.
Okay, you are an advisor to the government of the United Kingdom,
yes.
Right? What would you advise Ukrainian government, Ukrainian parliament on how to treat human resources in order to make them the most effective way to give a boost to Ukrainian economy?
I think by providing regulatory clarity. In other words, as in fintech and redtech and other related innovation industries, to provide a very, very quick path that the solutions that are being developed here have a sound legal basis. Because this is, it's funny because regulators are usually seen as putting the brakes on business and making it slower and making it less efficient. This is, what we're seeing now with not only with crypto but with blockchain in general is almost an aversion where people are crying out for regulators to take action and say this is, so it's one of the areas where, unlike anything else in history, regulators can actually be a great boost to business. Because if a regulator comes out and says, here's a framework, even if I don't like everything that the regulator says, now that I have a framework, businesses are going to be much more comfortable to invest. Right. So getting that regulatory clarity is a very, very key driver for more business rather than a restrictor for business, which is what regulation usually is. So the advice I would give is that the industry, trade organizations, conferences like this should be putting pressure on Ukrainian regulators to provide that framework.
There's a huge number of people who are against blockchain technologies, who are against cryptocurrency. Is this because they're not knowledgeable enough? And if so, how do we educate the majority of people in order to bring them the right information about blockchain and cryptocurrency?
So, yes and no. I mean, clearly there's a lot of ignorance. People still conflate blockchain with crypto, even though they're quite different things. But ultimately, when I saw you using your iPhone while we were getting ready for the interview.
It's a Samsung.
Sorry, my mistake.
It's okay.
But you do not have to. you don't have to explain to me how the IP stack works to use an app on your phone. I do not think that the general public needs a detailed education on consensus algorithms or proof of stake or any of the technical details that make blockchain effective. So from that standpoint, no, I don't think it's what people need is the solutions. And I think people are a lot smarter than generally given credit for. I actually am more of an optimist in terms of that. And I think the vast majority of skepticism is well warranted. The ICO market has become very quiet. That's because 81% of all ICOs are scams. Well, you know what? The skepticism is well justified.
Okay.
But by the same token, that doesn't make me want to slow down. If you look historically speaking, with any new innovation, telco, internet itself, even things like antibiotics or contraception earlier in the last century, the first people on, the first adopters of any new technology are criminal enterprises. This is because they have a natural competitive advantage. By definition, they have no governance. They don't have to care about their customers. They don't have to provide regulatory compliance, accountability to anyone. So criminals can bring solutions to market much faster than legitimate enterprises. They will always be the first on any scene.
That's because they're profit-oriented.
So the fact that criminals are first on the scene shouldn't scare us or slow us down. Obviously, we need to push to get legitimacy and transparency very quickly so that we quickly squeeze the criminals out of this space. But it is not particularly surprising nor dismaying that the criminals were the first on the scene with crypto or with blockchain. Of course they were. They have that built-in first mover advantage. We just need to move past that as quickly as possible and create a space where it becomes increasingly hard for the scammers to operate effectively.
Are you familiar with the term neobanks?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so for the audience, I will say that this is the type of banks that work only online. And then there is traditional banks, right? Regular banks. For some reason, in Ukraine, there is a tendency that started appearing that traditional banks call themselves companies, IT companies with banking license.
Yes.
How's this going to change the situation in the economy? I mean, why is there such a trend of starting neobanks?
So first I have to identify that I can't give an objective answer to this because one of the projects that a member of my team is doing, she's leading the launch of Hong Kong's very first virtual bank. Hong Kong issued virtual banking license for the first time last April, and my delivery leader is the woman leading the launch of the first one of those.
Nevertheless.
So that being said, I think that a virtual bank is a response to a set of market demands that traditional banks have found it difficult to adapt to quickly. And this is not that new of a demand. So I was in Mexico for most of the year in 2013, leading a digital transformation of Mexico's largest domestic bank, which is called Banorte. And we did a focus group for millennials, people who had just gotten out of university, about bank branches. And we asked them, what is the thing that you want most from your branch? And this is 2013, so this is 6 years ago now. And the answer was unanimous. The thing we want from our branch is to never have to go there. Okay? So, if you think about the way banks operate, their business processes, but even more importantly, how they incentivize and how they pay. So when you open an account in a bank in most parts of the world, all of the profits, the profit and loss that's measured and the bonuses people have paid flow through the branch. So even though if you never go into your branch, your bank account is associated with the branch. It's right there in the routing number. And that branch gets the credit for all the profit and loss, even if you never go there. So the entire structure of traditional banks are around a branch network that nobody wants and nobody wants to use.
Okay.
So the level of change is massive, and it is often much easier to just start with a new organization that doesn't inherit that legacy debt. And some of the most forward-thinking traditional banks are launching entirely new business units to compete that don't inherit that legacy debt. And those are the only, I think, traditional banking plays that have a chance of competing in this space.
That's a great point of view. Thank you so much for coming here today.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for this conversation. That was Areiel Wolanow. He is a managing director of Finserv Experts. Thank you so much for watching Head to Head. My name is Antonina Antosha. Stay tuned with UATV.